Hey there, Craydilly26 here, you guys. We're bringing you a new video series. This is going to be the first of a many part series. It's not just going to involve me, but a lot of the other content creators here at PCL have kind of gotten together with this really neat idea. We are going to, instead of doing my big tier videos that, you know, you guys have kind of been watching and critiquing how I break down each tier in Draft, we're actually going to now break down individual Pokemon. And since that's kind of a pretty large task for just one person to do, we're splitting it up. So you're going to see a lot more faces on the channel pretty soon. Just a lot of our content creators really wanting to really get involved in this league and give you guys a lot more content. So I am doing the very first video for this series, and starting with Celesteela. As many of you know, Celesteela was a big part of my Tier 1 video. We are all starting with Tier 1 Pokemon, by the way. So let's get started. So we first kind of want to break down the stats. So Celesteela, well, all of you should know what Celesteela is, but it is an Ultra Beast. It has that Beast Boost ability, which is really nice. Whenever it kills something, its highest stat gets boosted. It has great defensive typing, Steel and Flying. Only shares that with Skarmory, which most of you know is also a Tier 1. So that typing really means something. It's a really good defensive typing. He only has 2 weaknesses, Fire and Electric, which is really good to only have 2 weaknesses. Fire is pretty common coverage though, so Celesteela just have to watch out for that. Obviously, looking at the stats, Celesteela is not fast. 61 speed is pretty low speed tier. You're not really going to get anywhere with that. A Scarf can help, but that's not ideal. But it has the bulk and the typing to really back that up. It's able to switch in pretty easily. You look at the bulk, it's pretty crazy. 97 hit points is actually pretty good. Defense 103, special defense 101 is pretty good. And again, if you're building a more wall with Celesteela, that Beast Boost ability helps you kind of beef that up a little bit. The ability obviously is a huge plus for a mixed attacker. You can run so many different sets. The attack and special attack are both really high, so you can kind of play with which one the Beast Boost is going to boost, which just gives you so much variability in this Pokemon, and why I put it so high on my tier list. So with that, the moves that Celesteela gets, Celesteela gets a lot of moves. Leech Seed and Protect is the really common set everyone sees on the OU ladder. But when you're playing in Draft, you don't just use the OU sets. You gotta really play around with stuff. So, I mean, you look down this list, Celesteela has so much coverage. It's got its Steel moves, which are all really good, Heavy Slam or Iron Head, Flash Cannon for special, and then as far as flying type, Air Slash is so good. The Flinch Tance is really nice and all that. And then you get Stone Edge and Earthquake, which is one of those great combos. Everybody loves Edgequake. It's almost perfect coverage with just those 2 moves. So if you're building a physical Celesteela, you kind of want to build around those 2 moves, probably just because you're going to get a lot of coverage out of it. Superpower is another great coverage move. Fighting type moves are always really nice to have, and Superpower is one of the strongest. Flamethrower and Fire Blast. Fire, like I said, fire is common coverage because of things like Celesteela, so running those fire moves can help you a lot against steel types, especially if they're steel types that don't mind Earthquake as much, like Skarmory. So Celesteela has answers for that. Giga Drain and Seed Bomb are super nice to take out those bulky water types that can sometimes be a little bit of a wall for steel types, because steel is not very good against water. Substitute also always an option. Then there's other usable moves, things that are a little more niche, like you can kind of throw them on fun sets when you really need to use them to take out your opponent's Pokemon, like, because you know in the draft you can see what Pokemon they have. So Explosion could be a really nice suicide. It gets Zen Headbutt, which I've run before. Like, I know Season 1 when I face against like any really big poison types, especially if you're facing something like Mega Venusaur, if you're running a physical set, Zen Headbutt's what you're probably going to want to run to try to take out Mega Venusaur. The other attacks probably aren't going to do enough. Acrobatics can be nice depending on the item you're running, but again, that really limits you to what kind of item you're running on your Celesteela. Flame Charge is a good, I wouldn't say good, but an okay physical fire move that can help boost the speed a little bit. Grass Knot and Facade, great moves. Fly with Flynium is always nice. a lot of things run Flynium with Fly, and if you are able to draft Flynium with Celesteela, that's pretty strong. That's going to be pretty good. And then Gyro Ball, it's slow. It's not super slow, though, but it can help take out some fast teams with that. And actually, I realized we did leave off. I kind of mentioned it with Iron Head, but Autotomize. Autotomize is one of the key moves that Celesteela gets, doubling its speed. So doing a lot more than a Scarf can do to get its speed to where it would want to be to sweep, and then using that Beast Boost to boost the attack stats to be able to clear out teams. And I know I've made the mistake of running Heavy Slam on accident with Autotomize. You have to remember that it decreases the weight of the Pokemon, so Heavy Slam does less damage. So if you're running Autotomize on a physical Celesteela set, don't forget Iron Head. Really important. So now, why would you draft Celesteela? Basically, my number one point pretty much covers it, because you want to win. I know it's not just number one on my tier list for draft, but a lot of other YouTubers have put Celesteela really high on their draft lists where it's not banned, because it's just that good. The typing is so good. The versatility is so good. These other points here basically tell you why you pick this Pokemon, because you want to win games. It is number one on my top tier 1s list. If you haven't seen that video, you should go check that out. It's versatile. Like its stats let it set up as a wall, as a setup sweeper with Autotomize. It's offensive. It can be bulky offensive. The typing lets it switch into so many moves. It fills cores really nicely. Everyone knows the Fairy Steel Dragon core. Celesteela is probably the best steel type you could ask for that core, to be completely honest. It's really strong with the bulk that it has. So here's a few sets. We're not going to list all the sets for every Pokemon. That would be a little ridiculous. But these are 3 pretty common sets that I see in draft. I kind of want to start with the wall one. Again, that's kind of the basic Celesteela set that you all have seen on the overused ladder. You run leftovers on it, relaxed or sassy, depending on if you're going special defense or more defense. Leech Seed Protect is the basic recovery format for Celesteela to keep it alive, get the chip damage that you need. Protect can help you scout moves. Fire Blast, just great coverage for the things that Heavy Slam doesn't hit. A lot of steel types, you're going to want to run Fire Blast. And Heavy Slam is just the strongest steel move that Celesteela gets. It's really heavy, so it's going to do a lot of damage. The other 2 sets are more offensive builds for Celesteela. You can either run the Autotomize Sweeper, which is really popular in draft. I ran it a bunch of times in Season 1. I ran it a lot later in the season, and it did end up helping me a lot, actually. I think it's probably the better set for Celesteela. So what you're going to run with that is probably either a Life Orb or a Weakness Policy if you're feeling a little risky. It has the bulk to survive some hits. You really need to calculate those hits, though, that you're coming up against. And with an Autotomize, you really want to maximize that speed, maximize whichever attack stat you're going for. And then you can, like I said, run physical or special. If you run the physical, you're going to run Iron Head, Earthquake, and Stone Edge. Those are the really common ones. You can throw in, again, Superpower on there if you need to. You got to replace one of those moves. It gets a little tricky trying to replace those moves, so you have to be a little careful. And then if you're running the special set, you're going to be running Flash Cannon and Air Slash to get used to the stab, and then probably Flamethrower or Giga Drain, depending on what you really need to be hitting and what Flash Cannon and Air Slash might be missing. I think Flamethrower is probably going to be a little more of the common one, so you can hit Steel types, because those other 2 moves aren't going to do much against Steel, but Giga Drain can really give you an edge against Water types. So then the bulky offense, this is what I probably ran the most, though, especially earlier in the season, and it was still good. But I think that sweeper potential really helped. But with bulky offense, you can run Assault Vest. Always a great move. Weakness Policy, we saw a bit Season 2 from somebody that had Celesteela. And with a bulky offense, you're really going to probably maximize the hit points and then maximize whichever attack stat you're going for. But with all these EVs, you really want to make sure you're looking at your opponent's team and what you might want to outspeed just a tiny bit, especially because you're not running Autotomize. Maybe there's a Pokemon that's also kind of slow. You just want to give yourself a little bit of an edge over it. You can tweak these EVs a little bit. So again, physical set, Heavy Slam. Again, Heavy Slam, not Iron Head, because now you're not running Autotomize. Earthquake, Stone Edge, and then either Seed Bomb, Superpower. You can throw Flame Charge in there if you really need it. I don't think that's quite necessary with Earthquake, though. but I've actually run it once. I thought Flame Charge was actually kind of a fun move to throw in there. For the special set, Flash Cannon and Air Slash again, and now you can fit both Flamethrower and Giga Drain on there since you're not running Autotomize, which is really strong. Being able to throw both of those moves in there gives you a lot better coverage. Again, now you can take out Steel types, now you can take out bulky Water types. Really good sets. Just going to go over these three again. There's so much more you can do. You saw the move sets, the moves that we had earlier. There's a lot you can do with Celesteela. So what are Celesteela's checks and counters that you really want to watch out for in the draft? Well, that's basically fast electric and fire types for the most part. Again, Celesteela only has 61 speed without the Autotomized boost. It's very susceptible to things like Tapu Koko. Zero Aura is one of those new really good electric types. Jolteon. Oof, I faced Jolteon Season 1 and that thing is a monster. Very fast, hits very hard. As far as fire types, Volcanion is one of the big ones. As far as a wall breaker, it hits really, really hard. It could probably take one of your earthquakes pretty well. Arcanine is a huge, huge hit, especially if you're running a physical set because of that Intimidate it comes in on. Really weakens your Stone Edge and Earthquake that you might be using against it. So always be on the lookout for those. Try to find ways around it. The Autotomized set can be really tough for people to handle. We've seen that multiple times. That's one of the best sets. That's why people don't bring the phasers. Users be wary though that an Autotomized Celesteela, it gets it pretty fast, but it's still going to be very susceptible to a lot of Scarf users. 61 speed doubled is still not as good as a lot of the decent Scarf users that have a decent speed tier. So you really need to watch out for that. Don't expect to outspeed everything. If it's got a coverage move, just be careful, know when to switch. Always be on the lookout for fire and electric coverage. Hidden Power Fire is everywhere. A lot of things will run it. Always want to be wary of that. Things that might lure it in. Alakazam, Lotties, stuff like that are going to be a little tricky. And then look out for Thunderbolts. Anything running Bolt Beam is going to be pretty hard for Steela to get at. So who are you going to draft it with? So Celesteela is a tier 1. This is going to be your first pick in the draft. What you really want to do is draft around it. This is your big Pokemon. This is the #1 thing. This thing hits hard. So you really want to just build yourself around it. So what you really need is just, honestly, to be able to take those fire and electric attacks. Those are what Steela doesn't want to get hit by. You got to take out those checks and counters. So one of the most important things to draft with Celesteela, in my opinion, is a good ground type. You need something that can come in on electric attacks. Either a ground type or something with Lightning Rod, but honestly I think just a good ground type is going to be what you really want. If you're able to get something in a tier 1, like I don't think you could ever get Landorus and Celesteela on the same team, but if you did, that would probably be really strong. Other options like Crocodile, other tier 2s like Gligar or Mamoswine are going to be great switch-ins when you're facing something with electric coverage. And then for fire, obviously you want your bulky water type. Pretty straightforward. Almost everyone drafts a bulky water type because they're so good. They're so pivotal to almost every single team. Unless you're running a really, really strong hyper offense, you're going to draft a bulky water. One of the ones a lot of people talk about with Celesteela is Toxapex. That's one of the best cores that people like to talk about. They're both susceptible again to electric, but as long as you've got a good ground type in there, you're not too worried about that. You take out the electric counter, and Celesteela and Toxapex can just wall teams. The Steelapex core is really good. It's seen a lot of OU usage, and Toxapex is a tier 2 now, so when someone drafts Celesteela, always be on the lookout for them to maybe take Toxapex. And if you get Celesteela, look into Toxapex. Maybe try to draft it. It's going to be really strong with it. But even without Pex, just getting a bulky water type is going to help you a lot. And like I said earlier, Celesteela is a really pivotal part of like a Fairy Steel Dragon core. It's the best steel type in my opinion in draft, the best Pokemon in draft in my opinion. You've seen all the things it can do. Yes, it has its checks and counters, that's why it's not banned. Its checks and counters are prevalent enough to not be broken, but it's still really good. So make sure you build around it, and people facing it, make sure you know how to handle what they're building around. Overall, we're going to give a verdict here, and as I've said, Celesteela is the best thing you can draft. A+ from me. That's the highest rating we're giving here. So you should draft this. It should go round 1. It should go within the first 5 picks, honestly. If it does not go within the first 5 picks, everyone else down below is really, really lucky that it's falling, and someone will grab it. I don't think we will ever see a draft where Celesteela does not go round 1 at some point. There's 16 picks. Somebody's going to pick it. It's just not going to happen where it doesn't. Celesteela is just that good, guys. Just that good. So that is the end of this video. This again is the first of many. We're going to go through a lot of Pokemon, starting with Tier 1. We'll probably throw the Tier 1 Megas in there on and off. But yeah, expect some videos from some of the other people. I'll let them introduce themselves when they get their videos done and out to you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed our first in-depth Pokemon review for Draft. And I will see you guys next time.